Click here to subscribe our channel. Do not forget to press the bell icon to get regular updates of free videos.
So in this class we are going to start with international economics, and those who have joined class late, in the sense they are seeing this class from, let us say, today, just a brief idea. International economics question is basically in section B of paper 1. So paper 1 basically divided into two sections. One section mainly contains question related to micro, macro and money, banking and finance. The second section, section B, is mainly related with international economics and growth and development. So a weightage of around, let us say, 100 marks is for international economics. So generally you will find 6 or 7 parts, so there is a greater weightage. So in the international economics, but sometimes some international economics question are even was asked in section A as well. तो सेक्शन ए और बी का उतना रिजिड डिवीजन नहीं है, बट मेनली माइक्रो एंड मैक्रो इज इन सेक्शन ए and international and growth and development is in section B. You can divide this international economics section complete into two different parts, and I will be taking two different parts sequentially. So if you divide international economics so divide this international economics into two different section or two different parts. One related with theories of international trade, so all theories related to international trade, and those theories will be further divided into old theories and new theories of trade. So there are certain old theories and new theories. The second section of international economics will be mainly balance of payment and the concept related to that, and foreign exchange market and concept related to that foreign exchange market. So mainly that second section is mainly macro in approach. So if you are referring balance of payment and foreign exchange market, the approach will be macroeconomics in nature. ठीक है, वो macroeconomics का perspective होगा. That means mostly balance of payment concept and foreign exchange market is covered under macro section, but यहाँ पे separate section है तो उसका approach पढ़ने का macroeconomics होगा. But theories of international trade, all including old and new theories, the approach will be micro. So micro principles or tools will be used in order to explain the theories of trade, and macro principles will be used to understand the balance of payment and foreign exchange market. So broadly its syllabus is divided into two parts, and international also includes certain trade policies, so there, but those are some small topics, but broadly you will be dividing it into two different sections. The most common source for international economics is Dominic Salvatore. So international economics, mainly most of the students usually have this book, and this is a good book for international economics, so you can refer to that Salvatore, but I will suggest that you should be referring entirely Salvatore for balance of payment and foreign exchange market, no issue with that. Even you can refer theories as well, but related to the theories and theories of international trade, you may also refer Paul Krugman. So Paul Krugman mainly for theories part, and for balance of payment part you can refer to the Salvatore. So generally students have that Salvatore book, so in the study material that you must have got, for international economics mainly contains chapters from Paul Krugman. So this international economics syllabus or study material is basically certain important chapters of Paul Krugman. So Paul Krugman, no need to buy that book. These chapters are enough, and you can keep Salvatore. And that is basically these are the two important sources. No other source required for international economics section. Related to the question section, again generally you will find certain question related to the theories and certain question related to the balance of payment and foreign exchange market. So these are the basic, you can say, broad content. Within theories, remaining within old theories, there are in fact many, like Ricardian theory, HO model, standard trade model, specific factor model, and then new theories which will be basically based upon economies of scale. So we will be explaining, in fact each model is one chapter. So like Ricardian model is one chapter, HO model will be next chapter, specific factor model will be the third chapter, standard trade model will be the next chapter, new theories of trade will be the separate chapter. So these are various chapters in Paul Krugman as well as in the Salvatore. So it will be taking, in the first round will be completing all concept related to the theories, and then in the second round of international economics will be doing the balance of payment and foreign exchange market. Now if you see the question first before starting this, because I said the weightage for this section is generally around say 100 marks. So 6 or 7 parts are usually there. So this topic wise question is available on your portal, including the previous year question, that is 2019 mains. Now what we are seeing from in the last few years, that the nature of question sometimes is very specific also, and sometimes it is very general also. General in the specific in the sense, if question is asking you any question related to HO model or Ricardian model, then you are referring to that model exactly. But if you read questions like the last year question was, you can read question number 4 here. What are the features based on which new trade theories are built that are distinctly different from the old theories? So what are the features based on which new theories are built which are distinctly different from the old theories? So it is not referring to one old theory, a group of theories called old theories. They are based upon certain principles. So how those principles are differing from the new trade theories? So new trade theories have a different feature as compared to the old. So you must know the differences. You are not explaining any specific model, you must know that differences. Another applied question was this first one: trade can be growth promoting or growth inhibiting. Argue in terms of established theories. So you know the theories. Now from those theories you have to relate, out of those theories which theory is growth promoting and which theories explain growth inhibiting. So you know that theory, but you have to relate it with the growth promoting and growth inhibiting theories. So it was, again it was not targeted with any specific model, it was in general. So you must know all the theories so that you can relate it with the growth promoting and growth inhibiting theories. So we can say दो क्वेश्चन थे ये एग्जैक्टली theories वाले बेस, बट किसी स्पेसिफिक theory को रेफर नहीं कर रहे हैं. बट in past obviously you will be finding some question related to exactly theories as well. So in 19 it was 1 2 3 4 5 6 question from international, some question in compulsory, some 15 marks, some 20 marks. So approximately if you will add, it will be around 100 marks or more than 100 also sometimes. So just consider that 100 marks question is from international economics, and there will be at around 6 or 7 parts, and it is not only in 19, in 18 also, 1 question, 2 question, 3 4 5 6. So again 6 question there. So usually the weightage of international economics is around 6 question. Clear? So this topic wise question is available. As we will be proceeding, you have to explain or you will continue to answer these questions one by one. ठीक है, जैसे जैसे theories explain करते जाएंगे, we will have to proceed. So our first focus will be this first part, theories of international trade. So from next page we can make this heading first. I will be giving you first of all the overview related to old theories and the new theories, and then we will start with the specific theory. So it is a theories of trade or international trade. Old theories and new theories. The main difference between old and new will be that all old theories, that means within old there are many, all old theories assume that market is perfectly competitive. All theories are based on the assumption that there is perfect competition in the market. So if there is perfect competition in the market, then all features of perfect competition will also follow. I said the approach of this section will be micro, so it will be based upon micro tool. So all theories are based upon perfect competition assumption. So if you apply that perfect competition, then it means firms are producing homogeneous product. There are large number of seller, firm act as price taker, and price of the product will be equal to the marginal cost. So firms are producing homogeneous good. That means if there is, let us say, cloth product, then there are large number of cloth producer, but all are producing same cloth. New trade theories consider that market is not perfectly competitive. That means it is more realistic. It says that market is imperfectly competitive. It is imperfectly competitive. So that imperfection include oligopoly, that imperfection include monopoly and monopolistic. Mostly we will be discussing here about monopolistic competition. But if we consider that market is monopolistically competitive, then there are large number of firms producing differentiated product. So if I say that there is trade between home country and foreign country, so we have to take two different countries in order to explain the trade. So if home country is exporting, if home country is exporting cloth, if home country is exporting cloth, then home country could be importing cloth also, but that can be possible only when we consider that market is monopolistic, because only in a monopolistic competition market firms are producing differentiated product. So the cloth exported and the cloth imported are not same cloth, they are differentiated product. But if I say that market is competitive, then when we talk about trade between home country and foreign country, in that case, if home country is exporting cloth, then in exchange home country may be importing some other product, let us say food. So here the pattern of trade between two countries, pattern of trade is that you are exporting cloth, importing food, exporting cloth and importing food. This is basically inter-industry trade. Inter-industry trade है, you are exporting one product and importing the other product. But if you are exporting cloth and importing cloth also, then it is called intra-industry trade. It does not mean that when there will be intra-industry trade, there will be no inter-industry trade. So in the new trade theories, which is based upon imperfect competition, there will be two-way trade. One will be inter-industry trade and other will be the intra-industry trade. But in the old theories, because they are based upon perfect competition, all firms are producing same product. So in that condition, the trade nature of that trade will be only the inter-industry trade, and there are other differences as well. But the prime difference between old and new will be on the assumption. That means old theories assume that market is competitive, new theory assume that market is not competitive. So based upon that difference in assumption, we have to explain the theories. Now among old theories, we will be starting with the initial model, which is 2 by 2 by 1 model. That 2 by 2 by 1 model is talking about trade between two countries, let us say home and foreign. क्रूगमैन में ये होम एंड फॉरेन के टर्म में एक्सप्लेन हो रहा है, साल्वाटोर के अंदर ये नेशन 1 नेशन 2 लिखा हुआ है, सो इट डज नॉट मेक एनी डिफरेंस. सो ट्रेड बिटवीन टू कंट्रीज प्रोड्यूसिंग टू प्रोडक्ट, say cloth and food, by using only one factor of production, that is labor. So trade between two countries producing two product by using only one factor of production, that is labor. So labor will be the only factor of production. Labor will be the only factor of production in a Ricardian model. So mainly the first model will be the Ricardian model. एडम स्मिथ का जो एब्सोल्यूट कॉस्ट एडवांटेज है वो इसके साथ ऐड हो गया जाएगा. सो मेनली द फर्स्ट इंपॉर्टेंट मॉडल विल बी द रिकार्डियन मॉडल, which will be based on the assumption of 2 by 2 by 1 model. Then we will proceed to 2 by 2 by 2 model. There trade between two countries producing two product, but by using two factor of production, and two factor of production you can consider one is labor, other is capital. So there are two different factor of production. This 2 by 2 by 2 model is popularly known as HO model, Heckscher-Ohlin model. Heckscher-Ohlin model. So that will be, and there are certain topics related to that HO model, like factor price equalization, Leonti paradox. So when we will be covering HO model, then third part in this old theory will be 2 by 2 by 3. ठीक है, इसी ऑर्डर में समझिएगा उसे. Initially one factor production, then two factor production, then three factor production. Trade between two countries producing two goods by using three factor production, say labor, land and capital. Labor, land and capital. Now if there are two product, so if I say quantity of cloth is a function of labor used in cloth and land को T से denote कर लीजिए, and quantity produced of food depend upon labor used in food and capital, which means to produce cloth we require labor and land, to produce food we require labor and capital. So labor becomes common, so labor is mobile factor between these two industry, but land is specific to cloth and capital is specific to food. So this model will be referred as a specific factor model. This is a specific factor model. So 2 by 2 by 3 will be the specific factor model. 2 by 2 by 3 will be the specific factor model. So it is 2 by 2 by 1, then 2 by 2 by 2, then 2 by 2 by 3. These are separate chapters, and related in that chapter there are many topics. Within that I am just giving an overview, but all theories are part of old, and if it is part of old then it will be assuming perfect competition. That means product are homogeneous in nature. Based upon this 2 by 2 by 2, one more thing you can add will be the standard trade model. Standard trade model. So that standard trade model is also based upon 2 by 2 by 2 model. So it is basically HO model का description होगा, but that model will be using or explaining trade by using relative supply and relative demand curve. ठीक है, वो relative supply और relative demand curve के concept को highlight करेगा. Relative in the sense this approach of 2 by 2 by 2, ये हमने welfare के section में general electron में किया है. Two factor of production allocated to produce two product distributed between two consumer. तो वो approach general electron का है, और general electron में we establish that we can determine only the relative price and not the absolute price. तो वो relative supply और relative demand का concept आएगा. तो ये चार different model हो जाएंगे in this first part, old theories. As far as new theories are concerned, they are based upon imperfect competition, and that imperfect competition mainly will be discussing the monopolistic. मोनोपोली और मोनोपोली का एलिमेंट होगा. So in that new trade theories will be explaining about the intra-industry trade, because in that case trade is possible. So if firms are producing differentiated product, then they are producing differentiated product because consumers desire differentiated product. So which cloth will be exported, which cloth will be imported, that also depend upon preference of consumer. Which cloth you want to import, which cloth you want to export. So that is basically decided not only by the price, but also decided by the preference of consumer. And as far as preference is concerned, it becomes very unpredictable. So in new trade theory, the pattern of trade will also become unpredictable, whereas in the old, because product is same, so which product you are exporting, that is determined by the cost. So यहाँ पे वो ज़्यादा predictable है. So pattern of trade is more predictable here and it is unpredictable here. ठीक है, इस तरीके के पॉइंट्स को आपको एक्सप्लेन करते समय ध्यान में रखना, बिकॉज द नेचर ऑफ क्वेश्चन was this: what are the features based upon which new trade theories are built that are distinctly different from the old theories? So when you explain these type, if you want to score more, then you have to be very specific. That means जो requirement है उसके accordingly अपने आंसर कर रखा. It is not that you are just listing the old theories and the new theories. You have to highlight the main differences. So these are basically the content for theories of trade. Then within this same topic we'll be explaining the theories of trade by using offer curve, immeasurizing growth. So there are many topics or subtopics within that. Dumping, reciprocal dumping, that will be covering under the new trade theories. Clear? So usually in a book, mainly the theories begins with the Adam Smith absolute cost advantage, then we move on to the Ricardian comparative cost advantage, then it is HO model, specific factor model and standard trade model. तो mostly students यहाँ से पढ़ते हैं, but in 2017 there was a compulsory question and that compulsory question was, ठीक है, ये question आपके पास available है, you can read this question number 13. Write a short note on gravity model of trade. ठीक है, तो ये you have to write a note on gravity model of trade. Now you know Ricardian model, you know HO model, you know specific factor model, old theories, entire new theories, but you have not read the gravity model. Now this gravity model has been explained in the first chapter itself. ठीक है, वो इंट्रोडक्शन वाले चैप्टर में है, यूजुअली वो चैप्टर्स स्किप हो जाते हैं, बट इफ़ यू गो बाय दिस जो स्टडी मटेरियल है उसके अंदर फर्स्ट चैप्टर वर्ल्ड ट्रेड ओवरव्यू. So in that chapter in Paul Krugman, in the first page it explains in fact the gravity model. So what is basically gravity model of trade and what is the implication? So you have to write a note, that means 150 words. So you must know 150 words. This is complete chapter, but you have to write just 150 words. So the meaning is very simple of the gravity model. So we have to explain the main concept and what are the implication of that gravity model. So we will start with this gravity model, and after completing that gravity model, then we can start with the Ricardian model, then we will go to HO model, then a specific factor, then a standard trade model, and then to the new trade theories. ठीक है, तो ऐसे क्वेश्चन पे ध्यान दीजिएगा, वो थोड़े ऑफ ट्रैक क्वेश्चन हो जाता है, बट वंस दैट क्वेश्चन हैज बीन आस्क्ड यू आर एक्सपेक्टेड टू कवर इट. So first is gravity model of trade. First will be the gravity model of trade. ठीक है, the idea of gravity model is obviously derived from that law of gravity. So it basically say that if there is trade between two countries, then the volume of trade depends upon two things. One, how much is the distance between these two countries, and what is the size of these two countries, size in terms of GDP. That is volume of trade between two countries. So if I say this is country I and this is country J, then trade between or volume of trade between country I and country J will be determined by Y is GDP. GDP of country I, GDP of country J. So with GDP it will vary directly, but with distance it will varies inversely, and a constant parameter A is there. So in terms of equation, it says that the volume of trade between two countries is a function of what is the size of these two countries. So size is in terms of gross domestic product, and how much is the distance between these two countries. So it seems very logical that the volume of trade is determined by size. So greater will be the size, greater will be the exchange. So trade between, let us say, US and China will be more, but it will be more because of the size of their GDP. So the greater GDP in fact indicate greater or more income, and with more income you are spending more, and you are spending more not only on domestic good, but you are also spending more on the foreign good. So foreign good, spending on foreign good means you are importing that product. Similar happens in the other countries. So the trade between two countries depend upon the income, and trade between two countries will vary inversely with their distance, because greater will be the distance, greater will be the cost of transportation, so less will be the trade. That means you expect that there will be more trade with neighboring countries based upon this model. So greater will be the size, more will be the trade, greater will be the distance, less will be the trade. So the idea is very logical, but it basically fails to explain which product you are exporting, which product you are importing. So it simply talks about the overall trade, not specifically related to one particular product. So size of economy is one important factor and distance is another important factor. So first we explain that model, explain the implication of that, implication in the sense why we find a certain regional block. So regional block may, if you are finding some regional block, then the more trade in that region is mainly because of closer distance. So less will be the distance, greater will be the trade, more will be the distance, less will be the trade. So those type of we can say regional block is a implication of that gravity model, but it fails to explain that part, as well as it fails to explain or it does not take into account other considerations of trade also. So it is not simply that trade depends upon merely cost, the trade between, let us say, India and China. Now trade between India and China is more, but if there will be some non-economic issues like a border dispute, now because of that, if we are importing less from China, then we can say that this gravity model is not holding, because it is not taking into account those considerations. But trade depends upon other consideration as well, but it considers only two things. One is the size and other will be the distance. So first explain the basic idea and then implication and limitation part. First paragraph. The gravity model of trade, the gravity model of trade, the gravity model of trade relates trade, gravity model of trade relates trade between any two countries, relates trade between any two countries to the size of their economies, to the size of their economies, but size is in terms of GDP, size of their economies, and also with distance between two economies, distance between two economies, distance between two economies, full stop. There is a strong empirical relationship, there is a strong empirical relationship, that means real life data is supporting it. There is a strong empirical relationship between size of a country's economy, size of a country's economy, and value of both its export and import. Value of both its export and import. Full stop. Looking at the world trade, looking at the world trade, looking at the world trade as a whole, economists have found an equation that predicts the value of trade between two countries more accurately. Value of trade between two countries more accurately. You can write this equation. Trade between country I and country J is equal to A is a constant number, Yi is GDP of country I, Yj is GDP of country J, and this is distance between country I and country J. Below that equation. Therefore, keeping other things constant, value of trade between two countries is proportional to product of two countries GDP, is proportional to the product of two countries GDP, and it diminishes with distance between two countries. It diminishes with distance between two countries. Diminishes with distance between two countries. So that you can say the statement of that gravity model. Next paragraph. The above equation is known as gravity model of trade. The above equation is known as gravity model of trade. So the reason for gravity model is the analogy or similarity. The reason for gravity model is the analogy to Newton's law of gravity. Newton's law of gravity. Full stop. Just as gravitational attraction between any two object is proportional to product of their mass. तो mass in fact यहाँ पे GDP हो जाएगा. Product of their mass and diminishes with distance. Similarly, trade between two countries is proportional to product of their GDP and it diminishes with their distance. Full stop. Next paragraph. Economists often estimate a more general gravity model. Of the following form. Form is you are just adding some parameter A, B and here C. Just for fitting that empirical trend. No other important significance of A and B. This equation say that the value of trade, this equation say that the value of trade between two countries, value of trade between two countries are determined by size of their GDP, determined by size of their GDP, comma, distance between countries, distance between countries, as well as the value of A, B and C, A, B and C, as well as the value of A, B and C. Now after explaining that, just add implication. So what is the implication of this gravity model? So under that heading, next paragraph, gravity model has implications for, gravity model has implications for emergence of a regional bloc, emergence of regional bloc, emergence of regional bloc, लाइक वो यूरोपियन यूनियन का हो या एशियन कंट्रीज का हो, emergence of regional bloc which support the idea that, which support the idea that value of trade, value of trade increases as distance between two countries decreases, value of trade increases as distance between two countries decreases. So there is empirical support for gravity model. So real life data is supporting this concept. So there is empirical support for a gravity model. Next paragraph. However, trade is also determined by, trade is also determined by some non-economic factors, is also determined by some non-economic factors which are not covered in the gravity model of trade, which are not covered in gravity model of trade, which are not covered in gravity model of trade. The trade between, let us say, India and Pakistan will be less, but why it is less? Those are non-economic factors. So those non-economic factors are not covered in this gravity model. In addition, gravity model does not explain, in addition, gravity model does not explain the reasoning behind, does not explain the reasoning behind trade in terms of, reasoning behind trade in terms of comparative advantage, in terms of comparative advantage. So it is simply saying that the size is determining the trade and the distance is determining the trade, and not focusing why we are exporting a particular product. So you may be exporting that particular product because of the cost advantage, so that cost advantage has not been highlighted. So some implication and some drawback of this model. So in this type of question, just 150 words आपके notebook में written होना चाहिए, and this was question of 17. So problem is that if this type of question, जो नए question है, when it comes in the compulsory, then it creates problem. बट अगर आपने उसको नोट में पहले लिख रखा है, इफ़ यू नो दैट कंसेप्ट, तो इन दिस टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चन यू विल गेट इवन 7 आउट ऑफ 10, मतलब 70% तक के स्कोर आप यहाँ पे कर सकते हैं ऐसे क्वेश्चन. ठीक है, बिकॉज इस क्वेश्चन में कोई डिफिकल्टी नहीं है, जस्ट यू मस्ट बी अवेयर विद दैट मॉडल, एंड रादर देन राइट जस्ट राइटिंग आंसर इन योर ओन वर्ड्स, it is always better to write answer in what has been explained in the core book. So what has been mentioned or written in the Paul Krugman, तो वहाँ पे वर्ड्स ज़्यादा एक्यूरेट और इफेक्टिव होंगे, तो मार्क्स भी अकॉर्डिंगली उसके अकॉर्डिंगली मिलना है. सो यू नाउ हैव डन विथ ग्रेविटी मॉडल. नाउ वी कैन मूव टू द कोर, एंड द कोर विल बेसिकली स्टार्ट विद दिस 2x2x1 model, that is a Ricardian model. A Ricardian comparative advantage. Ricardian comparative cost advantage theory. So first is basically Ricardian comparative cost advantage theory. Now, as explained, Ricardian comparative cost advantage theory will be based upon 2 by 2 by 1 model. So it is trade between two countries. So I consider one country as home, second country as foreign, producing two product, say cheese and wine. ठीक एग्जाम्पल मैंने वही ले रखा जो बुक के अंदर है. But these two products are being produced by using only one factor of production, that is labor. Labor is the only factor of production. So labor is the only factor of production. By using that factor of production, home country can produce cheese and wine. Similarly, foreign country can produce cheese and wine. Now consider this example first. Trade will come later on. First think about a home country. So I am referring to only home country right now. Home country has labor as the only factor of production. So suppose home country has 2400 hour of labor. So it is not labor in terms of 1%, 2%, in terms of hour. So labor is measured in terms of hour here, 2400 hour. In that 2400 hour, home country can produce cheese as well as home country can produce wine. But how much quantity of cheese it can produce? How much quantity of cheese it can produce in 2400 hour? That depends upon what? That depends upon the productivity of labor. That means how much output can be produced in 1 hour. That will determine how much quantity you can produce in 2400 hour. So I am writing a certain terminology, just focus on that. I am writing here ALC. ठीक है, read this C for that cheese, L for labor, and A is unit labor requirement. C is for this product cheese, L is for labor, and A is unit labor requirement. Unit labor requirement to produce cheese. Just for example, suppose if I say 4 hour, unit labor requirement to produce cheese is 4 hour in home country. It means what? To produce 1 unit of cheese, it requires 4 hours. Unit labor required. So unit labor requirement to produce cheese is 4 hours. So in 4 hour you can produce 1 unit. So in 2400 hour you can produce 600 unit. In 4 hour 1 unit. So in 2400 hour you can produce 600 unit of cheese. Similarly, ALW. So W is here for wine, L for labor, and A is unit labor requirement to produce wine. And if I say it is 6 hour, it means to produce 1 unit of wine it takes 6 hours. So in 2400 hour you can produce 400 unit of wine. Clear? If you plot it in a graph by writing here quantity of cheese and here you write quantity of wine. So how much quantity of cheese home country can produce? 2400 आवर टोटल लेबर आवर है, 1 यूनिट प्रोड्यूस करने में 4 आवर लग रहे हैं. सो 2400 अपॉन 4, 600 का पॉइंट इधर आ गया. ये पॉइंट इनफैक्ट L अपॉन ALC है. दिस इज L अपॉन ALC. एंड हाउ मच क्वांटिटी ऑफ वाइन कैन बी प्रोड्यूस? 2400 divided by 6, so that will be L upon ALW. And if you connect these 2 points, you will be getting production possibility frontier. ये country का production possibility frontier है. That means how much quantity of cheese and wine this country can produce. How much quantity of cheese and wine this country can produce. So in that way it is production possibility frontier. And if you want to find slope of this line, slope of this production possibility frontier, then remember this number. This number is in fact a 400 and this number is a 600. So if you want to calculate slope, it is perpendicular by base. So it is 4 upon 6, that is 2 by 3. And what does this 2 by 3 measure? In fact, slope of ppf. This 2 by 3 in fact measures opportunity cost, and it is opportunity cost of what? Opportunity cost of that good which is written on x axis. I repeat, it is opportunity cost of that good which is written on x axis. So it is opportunity cost of cheese. And what is the meaning of opportunity cost? What is the interpretation of that number 2 by 3? If I say opportunity cost of cheese, remember the opportunity cost is always expressed in terms of the other good that you sacrifice. So if I say opportunity cost of cheese is 2/3, it means to produce one additional unit of cheese, economy will have to give up 2/3 unit of wine. To produce one more unit of cheese, economy will have to give up 2/3 unit of wine, because to produce one extra unit of cheese you require 4 hours, and in that 4 hour how many unit of wine could have been produced? 2 by 3, because एक यूनिट प्रोड्यूस करने के लिए 6 आवर है, तो 4 आवर में you can produce 2/3. So if I say 2 by 3 is opportunity cost, interpretation clear है. 2 by 3 opportunity cost of cheese means to produce one extra unit of cheese you have to give up 2/3 unit of wine. So cost will be measured in terms of opportunity cost, and this 2 by 3 is nothing but ALC by ALW, that is 4 by 6. So this ALC upon ALW is opportunity cost of cheese in home country. Clear? Similarly you can find opportunity cost of cheese in the foreign country. तो फॉरेन कंट्री के लिए भी L होगा, उसके लिए भी ALC ALW की वैल्यू होगी. For foreign country you will simply mark it in terms of star. So if I write ALC star upon ALW star, then that number will measure opportunity cost of producing cheese in foreign country. So once we calculate opportunity cost of good in both countries, then this trade model suggests that a country will have cost advantage in that line of production in which opportunity cost is lower. This model suggests that a country will have cost advantage in that line of production where opportunity cost will be lower. So if opportunity cost of cheese is less in home country, I am saying if opportunity cost of cheese is less in home country and more in foreign country, then home country will specialize in cheese, home country will produce cheese, and home country will export cheese. And in exchange what home country will import? Home country will be importing the other good. Reason, if ALC by ALW is opportunity cost of cheese, if I take inverse of that, so if you take inverse of that, then that will measure opportunity cost of wine. But if you take inverse, inequality will change. ठीक है, अगर इन्वर्स करते हैं तो इनइक्वालिटी चेंज हो जाएगी, और इनइक्वालिटी चेंज होने का मतलब अगर होम कंट्री के लिए कॉस्ट एडवांटेज चीज़ में है तो फॉरेन कंट्री के लिए कॉस्ट एडवांटेज वाइन में हो जाएगा. सो इन दैट वे बोथ कंट्री विल बी ट्रेडिंग विथ ईच अदर. सो फर्स्ट आई विल एक्सप्लेन द मेन पार्ट, that means here that cost is being measured in terms of ALC and ALW, and ALC and ALW are basically representing the productivity. If I simply say that ALC is 4 hour, that means to produce 1 unit of cheese in home country it take 4 hour, and ALC star is 6 hour, that means to produce 1 unit of cheese in foreign country it takes 6 hour. So you will simply say that in home country labor is more productive, because home country can produce 1 unit of cheese in just 4 hours, whereas foreign country takes 6 hours to produce 1 unit of cheese. So labor is more productive. So when labor is more productive, the cost will be lower. So here cost is determined by the productivity. That means two countries are trading, but they are trading because the productivity of labor between these two countries are different. So the reason for trade is difference in productivity. That is the main argument of Ricardian model. The reason for trade is here difference in productivity. Remember various theories जो हमने न्यू और ओल्ड theories में लब रखा है, each theory will highlight one important aspect, that why two countries are trading with each other. So two countries are trading with each other because of difference in productivity. This will be highlighted by Ricardian model. Then when we will move to the other model, it will highlight the other aspect, that two countries are trading because they differ in terms of resource. Others say two countries are trading because they differ in terms of their preferences. Two countries are trading because they differ in terms of technology. So there are various reasons for trade, and those reasons will be highlighted by each theory. So first explain, because there are various aspects in this Ricardian model. First, write down the introductory paragraph which will explain the basic meaning, and then we will explain the theory. Write down. Comparative cost advantage theory. Comparative cost advantage theory has been formulated by comparative cost advantage theory has been formulated by Ricardo. Has been formulated by Ricardo. This model of international trade is also referred as 2 by 2 by 1 model. Is also referred as 2 by 2 by 1 model. Full stop. According to this theory, a country has comparative advantage. A country has comparative advantage in producing a good. A country has comparative advantage in producing a good if opportunity cost of producing that good in terms of other good, because opportunity cost is always explained in terms of the other good that you sacrifice. Opportunity cost of producing that good in terms of other good is lower in that country as compared to the other country. I repeat the entire sentence. According to this theory, a country has comparative advantage in producing a good if opportunity cost of producing that good in terms of other good is lower in that country as compared to the other country. Let's underline that statement. This approach in which international trade is arising due to international difference between productivity of labor is known as a Ricardian model of international trade. Underline this line also. Next paragraph. In this model, production possibility frontier SPPF, production possibility frontier is a straight line due to constant opportunity cost. बिकॉज हमने प्रोडक्शन पॉसिबिलिटी फ्रंटियर जब जनरल इकनॉमिक मॉडल में डिराइव किया था वेलफेयर, इन दैट वेलफेयर वी डिराइव्ड प्रोडक्शन पॉसिबिलिटी फ्रंटियर एज कॉनकेव, but that was 2 by 2 by 2 model. There were two factor production. Here only one factor production. So when we have only one factor, it will be a straight line. It will become concave, but in the subsequent model, that is HO model. HO model में ये concave हो जाएगा. और वैसे ही अगर आपको फर्दर टेक्निकल फॉर्म में इफ यू वांट टू राइट द इक्वेशन ऑफ दिस लाइन, देन एक्चुअली दिस प्रोडक्शन पॉसिबिलिटी फ्रंटियर कंसेप्ट PPF, you can write equation of this line also, like ALC multiplied by quantity of cheese produced. So ALC is what? Unit labor used or required to produce 1 unit of cheese. If you multiply it by the quantity of cheese produced, then this is the total time allocated to cheese. And ALW multiplied by quantity of wine, then this will be the total time allocated for wine, and if you add, then this must be less than or equal to the overall labor. ठीक है, ये प्रोडक्शन पॉसिबिलिटी फ्रंटियर का इक्वेशन हो गया. And when you plot it graphically by writing here quantity of cheese and here you take quantity of wine, then this intercept, lower one is L upon ALC, this is L upon ALW, and if you calculate slope from this line, then this will be minus ALC upon ALW, and in terms of that number, ALC was 4, ALW was 6, so it is minus 2 by 3, minus because of negative slope. So that 2 by 3 is basically slope, but that 2 and 3 are a constant number, so slope is constant. So if slope is constant, the line must be straight line. ठीक है, अगर line straight नहीं है तो slope change होना चाहिए हर point पे, but if slope is constant, that means it will be a straight line. So in this model, it is a straight line. So opportunity cost, ALC upon ALW, is nothing but opportunity cost. So just as we derive PPF for one country, similarly you can derive PPF for the other country, but in that other country the slope will not be same, because अगर slope same हो गया तो opportunity cost same हो जाएगा, और same होने पे there will be no trade. There will be trade only when there is difference in cost. If cost in India and cost in China both is same, then there will be no trade. Trade arises because of difference in cost, but difference in cost could be because of difference in productivity, difference in resource, difference in technology. So these are the different reasons for difference in cost, but in this model, cost is differing because of difference in productivity. Continue this. Slope of PPF measures, slope of PPF measures opportunity cost, slope of production possibility frontier measures opportunity cost, that is cost of one good in terms of other good, cost of one good in terms of other good, and it is measured by a ratio of, it is measured by ratio of unit labor requirement, ratio of unit labor requirement of producing good, of producing good, of producing good. ठीक है, you can note one important difference here. You are not comparing just ALC with ALC star. You are not directly comparing this number with this number to determine in which country cheese will be produced. In fact, we are comparing opportunity cost, and opportunity cost is ALC upon ALW. If you compare only these two numbers, then it is absolute cost advantage. Suppose if I say ALC is 4 hour and ALC star is 6 hour, then based upon that you can say in home country labor can produce 1 unit of cheese in less time. So home country has absolute advantage in cheese. ALW 6 hour and ALW star is say 10 hour. Again, home country can produce wine in less number of time. So home country has absolute advantage in both line of production. Home country has absolute advantage in both line of production. But if home country will have absolute advantage in both line of production, then based upon absolute cost advantage theory, which was provided by Adam Smith, based upon that theory we can say that trade cannot happen, because trade must be mutually beneficial. Unless the other country do not have any benefit, the other country will not trade. So trade has to be mutually beneficial. So if home country has absolute advantage in both line of production, then based upon that theory there will be no trade. But what Ricardo suggests, that even if one country has absolute advantage in all line of production, even then trade is possible, because trade is not based upon absolute cost advantage. It is based upon comparative cost advantage, and comparative cost advantage is based upon opportunity cost. So based upon absolute cost advantage, we can say there is no trade possibility, but based upon comparative, so if you calculate comparative cost advantage, then ALC upon ALW, and you will compare it with ALC star by ALW star. So if this number is 4 by 6, 4 and 6, this is 6 by 10, ठीक है, तो ये 0.23 और ये पॉइंट, this becomes 0.66 and this is 0.6. so this ALC star, तो इन दोनों को आप कंपेयर करेंगे, this number is greater and this number is less. So if this is the case, then we can say opportunity cost is less in the foreign country. So foreign country will produce cheese. In that case, this product will be produced in the foreign country. Foreign country will be producing cheese. But which country will produce wine then? For wine, the opportunity cost will become inverse. So this number will become 6 by 4 here and this will become 10 by 6 here. So now inequality will be different. ठीक है, यानी inequality different हो जाएगी. ठीक है, this becomes 1.5 and this is more than 1.5. So in that case, home country will be producing wine. So what is happening that in this example, although home country was having absolute advantage in both line of production, but based upon the comparative cost advantage, still trade is possible and feasible and it is beneficial for both of them. So absolute cost advantage, और आप कह सकते हो ओल्ड थ्योरीज के फॉर्म में रिडंडेंट आपकी आज की डेट में है. वी आर बेसिकली एक्सप्लेनिंग दी और स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम द रिकार्डियन मॉडल. सो एट दिस पार्ट इन नेक्स्ट पैराग्राफ, even when country may have absolute cost advantage, even when country may have absolute cost advantage in producing both good, even when country may have absolute cost advantage in producing both good, country will have comparative cost advantage. Country will have comparative cost advantage in only one line of production. Country will have comparative cost advantage in only one line of production. In only one line of production. Comparative, you cannot have comparative advantage in both line of production because it is being calculated like that. If you are taking one ratio, if you are taking inverse, then equality will always be different. Next paragraph. Now next paragraph is basically explaining once here we have determined this production possibility frontier for say home country. So PPF actually just determine what are the possibilities of production. Where what will be the actual point of production is not determined by the PPF. PPF just determine the possibility of production. So the possibilities of production are determined by the PPF, but which product will be actually produced, now that will depend upon in which sector labor is moving. If labor is moving to cheese sector, then cheese will be produced. If labor will move to wine sector, then wine will be produced. Now labor is free to move within country, but labor cannot move between the country. These are certain assumptions of the model. That means we are discussing about trade between home and foreign countries. So between two countries there will be only flow of goods. Goods का flow है, movement है. Labor is not moving from one country to the other country, but within one country, within home country, labor can move from one industry to the other industry. So it is perfectly mobile within the economy, but immobile between the countries. So now we are basically explaining which product will be actually produced by the country, or first by explaining the home country. So right now we have not explained trade, just explaining what is happening in the home country. Next paragraph. PPF only determines what an economy can produce. PPF only determines what an economy can produce. What an economy can produce. full stop. To determine what economy will actually produce, we need to know a relative price. We need to know a relative price. Full stop. In a competitive economy or in a competitive market, because we are discussing old theories, and old theories are based upon assumption of perfect competition. In a competitive economy and with only one factor of production, that is labor, wage rate will be equal to value of marginal product. Now understand this. Remember, labor can work or move to cheese sector or to wine, depending upon in which sector wage is greater. Now if we calculate wage, then wage is equal to in fact marginal product, but marginal product is in terms of physical unit. You are producing cheese and wine, but wage will be given in monetary term. तो marginal product को हम price से multiply कर देते हैं, and then it becomes value of marginal product. That means what you are doing is price multiplied by marginal product, and it is price of what? Price of the goods produced by labor. So this good is cheese, so this is price of cheese. And what is the meaning of marginal product or marginal product of labor? Just consider this example. I said ALC is 4 hour. It means to produce 1 unit of cheese in home country it takes 4 hour. So in 4 hour you are producing 1 unit. So in a 1 hour 1/4 unit will be produced, and whatever you will produce in 1 hour, that will be called as marginal product of labor. So if ALC is 4 hour, it means in 4 hour home country produces 1 unit of cheese. So in 1 hour it produces 1/4. So 1/4 will be the marginal product. So you can write it as price multiplied by 1 upon ALC. So wage is in fact equal to PC upon ALC. Clear? Wage in cheese sector will be PC upon ALC. हो जाएगा. Similarly, if you determine wage in wine, then wage will be equal to VMP of labor in wine, and that will be price of wine multiplied by marginal product, and that will be 1 upon ALW. So it becomes PW upon ALW, that is wage in wine. Clear? Now there are certain possibilities. Write down certain conditions. If a possibility, if I say PC upon ALC is greater than PW upon ALW, then what is exactly PC by ALC? PC by ALC is wage in cheese, and PW by ALW is wage in wine. So if PC by ALC is greater, it means wage in cheese is greater. So all worker will move to that sector. If all worker is moving to that sector, then country is producing only that product, because you can't produce a product without using labor. But if all labor is free to move, so if all labor is moving to cheese, then country is producing only cheese. So this is the condition where only cheese will be produced by the home country, but only cheese will be produced in the home country if PC upon ALC is greater than PW upon ALW. You can write same thing alternatively in this form. It is PC upon PW greater than ALC upon ALW. Same thing has been written, just cross. Now what is this ALC by ALW? ALC by ALW was called as opportunity cost of cheese. Okay? And what is PC by PW? PC by PW you can call it a relative price of cheese. So now you can draw one important conclusion, and that conclusion is a country will produce only cheese if a relative price of cheese is greater than opportunity cost of producing cheese. A country will specialize only in cheese if relative price of cheese is greater than opportunity cost of producing cheese. So I will be dictating that. So there will be production of only cheese if the relative price of that good is greater than the cost of producing that good, and cost is measured in terms of opportunity cost. So what could be the second possibility? PC by ALC is less than PW by ALW, or PC upon PW is less than ALC upon ALW. In that case, country will be producing only wine. Remember, if two countries are trading with each other, then there is a possibility that you may produce only cheese, you may produce only wine. If you produce only cheese, you are producing surplus cheese, in fact, because as a consumer you will be consuming both, but as a producer you are producing only cheese. But if trade is feasible, then you can export surplus cheese and in exchange purchase wine. If you are producing only wine, you can export surplus wine and in exchange purchase cheese. But that is possible only when two countries are trading with each other. If two countries are not trading with each other, if you are not trading with each other, then you must produce both goods. But both goods can be produced only if labor is moving to both industry. And labor can be moving to both industry only if the wages in both industry will remain same. So if there is no trade, then country must produce both goods. And in order to produce both goods, their labor must be moving to both industry, and that can happen only when wage in both industry will be same. So that will be basically your third possibility. And that third possibility say that PC by PW is equal to ALC by ALW. In that case, both goods can be produced by the home country. So when both goods will be produced, actually if both goods are produced, it means the relative price is equal to the opportunity cost, and this is also known as a autarky condition. Autarky means country in isolation. So if a country is isolated, that means it is not trading with any other country, then it must produce both goods. And if it is producing both goods, then relative price must be equal to the opportunity cost. So just remember, in the absence of trade, relative price of cheese will be equal to opportunity cost. बट वो अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट दोनों कंट्री में सेम नहीं है, वो अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट दोनों कंट्री का अलग अलग है. तो इफ होम कंट्री इज नॉट ट्रेडिंग, then relative price in home country is different. If foreign country is not trading, then relative price in foreign country is different. But if they will trade, so before trade relative prices are different, but after trade relative price will converge. तो ट्रेड से पहले प्राइसेस डिफरेंट होंगे बिकॉज अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट इज ऑल्सो डिफरेंट. So due to difference in cost, prices are different, and because of difference in price, there will be trade, and trade will lead to convergence of price. Trade will be leading to that convergence of price. So up to this is basically before trade, then we can explain that trade part. So this is very important or relevant part in the Ricardian model. So I am dictating this part section. ठीक है, इस फॉर्मेट डिटेल में लिखते रहेगा because it will help, and I will be explaining few more question that has been put in a different way. That means not in terms of ALC and ALW, but in a different way. So I will be explaining that just after this. Right on. In the absence of trade, a country must produce both goods on its own. In the absence of trade, a country must produce both goods on its own. So for that purpose, it is required that a relative price of good must be equal to opportunity cost. Relative price of good must be equal to opportunity cost of producing that good. Opportunity cost of producing that good. However, in the presence of trade, a country may produce only one product. A country may produce only one product if relative price of that product, is greater than opportunity cost, of producing that good, is greater than opportunity cost of producing that good. For example, if relative price of cheese is more than opportunity cost of producing cheese, if relative price of cheese is more than opportunity cost of producing cheese, then country will produce only cheese, as it also imply that wages in cheese sector is more than wages in wine sector. Wages in cheese sector is more than wages in wine sector. मतलब PC by ALC is greater than PW by LW, or PC by PW is greater than ALC by ALW. So just remember, in the absence of trade, PC by PW is equal to ALC by LW. Now understand this problem first. Just consider this example. If ALC upon ALW, so this will be one particular number, and ALC star by ALW star, this is opportunity cost in the foreign country. If I consider that ALC by ALW is less than this, so effectively we are saying that before trade ALC by ALW will be equal to PC by PW, and here it will be PC by PW, but you can say it is in the foreign country. So trade से पहले, before trade, prices can be different. So if this is the difference in price, then what will be the pattern of trade? Pattern of trade is that home country cheese producer will prefer that, since price of cheese in foreign country is more, so they will prefer to export cheese. Okay, opportunity cost चीज़ का कम है होम कंट्री में, होम कंट्री का कॉस्ट एडवांटेज है, सो होम कंट्री विल बी एक्सपोर्टिंग चीज़, सो होम कंट्री export cheese, but as home country will be selling cheese in the foreign country, there will be less supply of cheese in home country, more supply of cheese in the foreign country, so relative price of cheese in home country will start increasing and relative price in foreign country will start declining, and this change will continue so that the relative price becomes equal in both country. ट्रेड से पहले प्राइसेस डिफरेंट होंगे, बट ट्रेड के बाद प्राइसेस कन्वर्ज हो जाएंगे. सो फ्री ट्रेड लीड्स टू कन्वर्जेंस ऑफ प्राइस. सो आफ्टर ट्रेड यू कैन नॉट से दैट प्राइसेस आर डिफरेंट. ट्रेड इज लीडिंग टू दैट कन्वर्जेंस ऑफ प्राइस, बट विच प्रोडक्ट विल बी एक्सपोर्टेड एंड विच प्रोडक्ट विल बी इंपोर्टेड, that will depend upon the opportunity cost. So just write this example. If opportunity cost in home country is less and in foreign country it is more, then home country is exporting cheese, and as it will continue to export cheese, supply of cheese in home country will decrease, which will increase price domestically, and in foreign country it will suppress the price or reduce the price, and that change in price will continue so that price becomes equal in both the countries. So write this example. If relative price of cheese in home country is less, if relative price of cheese in home country is less than in foreign country, if relative price of cheese in home country is less than in foreign country, then home country will export cheese. Then home country will export cheese because it will be profitable to export cheese. It will be profitable to export cheese. However, this cannot go on indefinitely. This cannot go on indefinitely. So eventually, home country will export enough cheese. Home country will export enough cheese so that relative price get equalized. Relative price get equalized. Relative price get equalized. So after trade relative price is determined by intersection of relative supply and relative demand. Intersection of RS and RD. So determination of equilibrium relative price. Determination of equilibrium relative price determines pattern of trade. That means which country will export which product. That will be determines once you determine the relative price. Determination of equilibrium relative price determines pattern of trade. A country will specialize in that line of production. A country will specialize in that line of production. In which relative price will be greater than opportunity cost of producing that good. A country will specialize in that line of production in which relative price will be greater than opportunity cost of producing that good. Underline that. I repeat, a country will specialize in that line of production in which relative price will be greater than opportunity cost of producing that good. That means if this is the case, ALC by LW is less and this, so obviously trade is happening. Now during that trade, relative price here increases and relative price here decreases. So we can say that due to trade, prices will be determined somewhere in between. So in between means it must be greater than this number and less than this number. So home country will be exporting cheese and importing the other commodity. Therefore, according to Ricardian model, trade arises due to a difference in opportunity cost. Trade arises due to a difference in opportunity cost, and opportunity costs are different. Due to difference in productivity of labor. Due to difference in productivity of labor. So trade is arising due to difference opportunity cost, and opportunity costs are different because of difference in productivity. But why productivity is different? Not explained in this model. So this model limitation is that it fails to explain why two countries differ in terms of the productivity. However, this model fails to explain the reason behind difference in productivity of worker. This model fails to explain the reason behind difference in productivity of worker. So you can use this line as a part of limitation. Remember this ALC and ALW. Usually information is it can be expressed in two different form. In fact, one is in the form of unit labor requirement. That means to produce one unit, it takes how much time. It could have been given in an alternate form, like to produce. So in 1 hour, how many unit has been produced? एक information हो गया to produce 1 unit of cheese, it takes 4 hours. And if I give information as in 1 hour, 4 unit of cheese can be produced. तो interpretation different हो जाएगा. That means you can see one question which was in 2014. Apply that concept first, then we'll proceed with the gain from trade. So question in 2014. What this ticket is there in that topic wise question. You can read question number 35 and then apply के जो अभी तक concept किया वैसे ही apply करना, or it is something different. Explain the condition under which complete specialization will be possible for two nations in the case of comparative advantage. Complete means you are producing only one product, and partial when you produce both the product. Suppose productivity per unit of labor for two nations, India and UK, is given as. तो इंडिया और यूके के लिए इंफॉर्मेशन गिवन है. दिस इज फॉर यूके, ये करेक्शन यहाँ कीजिएगा, एंड दिस इज फॉर इंडिया. ठीक है, इंडिया का इंफॉर्मेशन ये पहला होगा, सेकेंड विल बी फॉर यूके. Productivity per unit of labor, it is productivity per unit of labor is given. That means in 1 labor hour how many quantity is being produced. और वो जो लिख रहे थे उसमें क्या था, in 1 it was unit labor requirement. That means to produce 1 unit how much labor was required, and this is productivity per unit of labor. That means in 1 labor hour how many quantity has been produced. So this 6 and 3 is not a hour, this 6 and 3 is the unit. This is the unit of wheat produced, unit of cloth produced. So given this information, will mutually beneficial trade be possible for two nations? If yes, explain whether specialization will be complete or not. Remember, whenever the question is related to only one factor of production, you have to think in terms of Ricardian model. And Ricardian model say that trade can happen only if opportunity cost is different, and we can measure opportunity cost as unit labor requirement. But the information given here is in different form. It is not unit labor requirement, it is productivity per unit of labor. So how to apply or think? Just write this example first. For India and UK, wheat 6 kg, UK 3 kg. That means in 1 hour labor produces in India 6 kg of wheat, and in UK 3 kg of wheat. And for cloth, in 1 hour 4 unit of cloth and 2 unit of cloth in UK. Okay, this is the information given. Now since these are in terms of units, सिर्फ इसका ध्यान रखेंगे, this is quantity, this is not in terms of hour. So in this question, just draw production possibility frontier for India, PPF. When we draw production possibility frontier, it becomes easy then. Always write the first product on x-axis, second on vertical axis. So suppose India has 1 labor hour, so in that 1 labor hour it can produce either 6 unit of wheat or 4 unit of cloth. So 6 unit of wheat here, 4 unit of cloth here, and then connect 4 and 6, and then you know that slope of this line will measure opportunity cost, and it is measuring opportunity cost of that good which is written on x-axis. So on x-axis you are denoting wheat, so opportunity slope of this line will measure opportunity cost of wheat. So what is slope here? Perpendicular by base, 4 by 6, 2 by 3. So that 2 by 3 is opportunity cost of wheat. So what will be opportunity cost for cloth? It will be inverse of that. So we know the opportunity cost of cloth in India, we know the opportunity cost of wheat in India. Then draw it for UK. Wheat and cloth in UK 3 unit or 2 units, so it is a 3 year and 2 year. But if when you calculate slope, then slope is again 2 by 3, and we know that slope is a opportunity cost, so that is opportunity cost of wheat. So when we compare opportunity cost of wheat in India and UK, we find that opportunity cost is same in both countries. But if opportunity cost is same, then trade is not profitable, trade is not beneficial. So in this case there will be no exchange, there will be no trade. ठीक है, और यहाँ पे ध्यान देंगे ये जो नंबर आ रहा है 2/3, ये 6/4 करके नहीं आया, इट इज़ 4/3, इन्वर्स हो जाएगा इनफैक्ट. जस्ट फोकस ऑन द इंफॉर्मेशन, that in which form information has been given. Is it in terms of unit or is it in terms of labor? So is it in terms of unit labor requirement or is it in terms of productivity of labor? So just write one line here. Since opportunity cost of wheat and opportunity cost of cloth is same in both countries, so there will be no trade, between India and UK. There will be no trade between India and UK. As there will be no benefit from trade. Clear? So this was the important difference. But usually if the question is on productivity, you can write one more example. Suppose I give information about home country and foreign country. As home country has overall labor force of 2400 and foreign country has labor force of 1600, and by using this labor hour, home country and foreign country produces two product, orange and PS. So I write ALO, unit labor requirement for orange. Unit labor requirement for orange is 6 hour and ALP is 4 hour. In foreign country it is ALO star, and in foreign country it is a foreign unit labor requirement for orange is 10 and for PS it is 2. So if this information is given and if I ask what will be the pattern of trade, since labor is the only resource, so you will apply Ricardian model. Before explaining that, just draw the production possibility frontier by writing here orange and PS. If this is the overall labor resource available and this is unit labor requirement, then L upon this will be this corner point. So it is 2400 by 6, 2400 by 4, and what is slope here? Slope will be 6/4, so it is 6/4, 1.5. So that is opportunity cost of orange in home country, and when you draw it for foreign country, it is 1600 by 10, so this will be 160. 1600 by 2, this will be 800. So slope of this line is 800 by 160, that will be 5. Okay, so it is 10/2 in fact. Then you can always present it in a tabular form. Just calculate opportunity cost. You have in fact have calculated opportunity cost. Opportunity cost of orange, opportunity cost of pears in home country and then in the foreign country. ठीक है, उसे टेबुलर फॉर्म में शो कर सकते हैं. And when you plot it in terms of tabular form, then obviously for orange in home country opportunity cost is 6/4. So for pears it will be the opposite, so it will be 4/6.6. Here it will be 5, and so here it will be 1/5. And then which product will be produced in which country? For that purpose you have to compare opportunity cost for good. So for orange, opportunity cost is lower in home country, so home country will specialize in orange. For pears, opportunity cost is less, it is 1/5.2a. This is less in foreign country, so that product will be produced in the foreign country. So that will be the pattern of trade. So the orange का opportunity cost जिस country में कम होगा, that country will specialize in that line of production. So if any value based question is given, then you have to think, just plot that PPF, slope of PPF measure opportunity cost, and it measure opportunity cost of that good which is written on the x axis. Just remember that. And when we compare that opportunity cost, that country will produce a commodity in which opportunity cost is lower as compared to the other country. Clear? So because one time 2014 there was a question, so it may be, but usually the question, the nature of question is basically theoretical. That means you have to explain or analyze more. Now continuing with this same chapter, we can add one more point in this class, which is gains from trade. Gains from trade. That means if two countries are trading with each other, then what is their gain? That is what, how much is the advantage? One obvious advantage is that if you do not trade, then we cannot consume what we are not producing. That means we can't consume outside the production possibility frontier, because our production possibility will determine our consumption possibility if we are not trading. But if you are trading, then we can consume outside the production possibility frontier through exchange. So that is the one obvious advantage. And the other advantage will be basically in terms of the indirect exchange of goods. So what is the basically the indirect exchange or indirect trade? So we can explain gains from trade into based upon two different points. So first point is obvious, that you can consume outside the production possibility frontier, and second basically requires explanation. So write down the first one first. International trade helps a country to consume outside PPF. International trade helps a country to consume outside PPF. In the absence of trade, production possibilities determine. In the absence of trade, production possibilities determine consumption possibilities. Production possibilities determine consumption possibilities. But after trade, each country can consume and produce different combination. Each country can consume and produce different combination. Each country can produce and consume different combination. Just like this. Suppose I draw for home and for foreign their production possibility frontier. So if it is a 600 by 400, मतलब 4 यहाँ और 6 की वैल्यू यहाँ लिखी है, and here it is a 400 and 600. So now you will find that here slope is a 6/4 and here slope is 4/6. So opportunity cost is different. So for this product, we can, if I say this is a cheese, this is wine, So for cheese, home country has a lower, foreign country has a lower opportunity cost. So home country will be producing only cheese. So foreign country will be producing only wine, then this point. So if I combine, this is production possibility frontier for home country, and home country production point is this. This is production possibility frontier for foreign country, and foreign country production point is this. So world production is now 600 cheese and 600 wine. If you are not trading, this is your production and consumption both. If you are trading, then there is some additional area, and that additional area stands basically gains from trade, because each country specializes according to their comparative advantage, and based upon that comparative advantage, home country produces 600 unit of wine, foreign country produces 600 unit of cheese, and therefore world production as a whole increases, and therefore they stand to gain from that. So you can use or draw this diagram this under first point, and then for the second and last point will be, first draw this. Second point now. Gains from trade arise due to indirect method of production. Gains from trade arise due to indirect method of production. Underline the word. Indirect method of production. Indirect method of production. Full stop. Home country can produce both goods on its own. Home country can produce both goods on its own, but it specializes in that line of production. It specializes in that line of production in which it has comparative cost advantage. In which it has comparative cost advantage. In which it has comparative cost advantage. Now consider this example. Suppose if I say that in home country one labor hour is available. That labor hour can be used for production of cheese or for production of alternate good. But in 1 hour, how much quantity can be produced? If ALC is 4 hour, it means in 4 hour you can produce 1 unit. So in 1 hour, 1/4. So in 1 hour, home country can produce 1 by ALC unit of cheese. Similarly, in that 1 hour, home country can produce 1 by ALW unit of wine. But it will be beneficial for home country to use this hour to produce cheese if by using that hour home country produces some quantity of cheese, and by exporting that cheese home country in exchange gets some wine, but that wine is more than 1 by LW. But obvious question is, if home country is exporting 1 by ALC unit of cheese, in exchange how much quantity of wine it will get? That means if you are selling, let us say, 1 pen, in exchange how much pencil you will get? That depend upon the price. If prices are same, then for 1 pencil you will get 1 pen, but if prices are different, then there is no one-to-one relationship. So if you are exporting some quantity of cheese, in exchange how much quantity of wine you will get? That depend upon the price. So if you multiply it by the price ratio, that is PC by PW, then this will determine the overall quantity of wine that you will get. Just consider this example. Suppose price of cloth is 10, price of wine is 20. Just hypothetical number लिया, तो PC by PW 1/2 हो गया. So if you are exporting some quantity of cheese, how much quantity of wine you will get? मतलब जैसे बजट लाइन का अगर आप स्लोप कैलकुलेट करते हैं, then slope of budget line always measure price ratio, that is P1 by P2 if good 1 and good 2 are there, and price ratio always measure the opportunity cost, that is change in X2 by change in X1. So change in X2 will be written as P1 upon P2 into change in X1. It means that if you sell 1 unit of good 1, in exchange how many unit of good 2 you will get? that depends upon the price ratio. If prices are same, then this ratio is 1. So delta x1 will be equal to delta x2. So if you are exporting some quantity of cheese, in exchange how much quantity of wine you will get, you can get it by multiplying it with the price ratio. So this is the overall quantity of wine that you will get by exporting 1 by ALC unit of cheese. So if this number is greater than 1 by LW, that means आपने 1 hour को use किया चीज़ के production में, you exported that cheese and in exchange you got some wine, and that wine quantity is basically this. So if this quantity is greater than this, then there is gain from trade, and that gain is difference of these two numbers. And if you look at closely, this condition is also stating that PC by PW is greater than ALC by ALW. और यहीं से अपनी क्लास बिगिन किया था पहले implication के साथ, that if price ratio, that is relative price ratio, is greater than opportunity cost, because ALC by LW is opportunity cost and this is price ratio. So if relative price is greater than opportunity cost, then they will be trade, and that trade will be beneficial. A country will always specialize in that line of production in which relative price is greater than opportunity cost. So this relative price is greater than opportunity cost. This is indirect exchange. That means you are not in fact allowing labor to move from home country to the foreign country. You use your labor in order to produce that good in which you have comparative advantage, and then exchange that good in order to import that good in which you do not have comparative cost advantage. But in that exchange of goods you stand to gain. So that is the second point. Point number 2. Just copy this example and below that. Labor has its opportunity cost. Labor is this 1 hour. Labor has its opportunity cost. So home country uses an hour to produce. Labor has its opportunity cost. So home country uses an hour to produce 1 by ALC unit of cheese. 1 by ALC unit of cheese, and trade it, that is exchange it, and trade it in exchange for wine. Trade it in exchange for wine at price ratio PC by PW. In exchange for wine at price ratio PC by PW. Therefore, home country will gain from trade if home country will gain from trade if write down this condition, if 1 by ALC into PC by PW is greater than 1 by LW, or this. It means that there is gain from trade if. It means that there is gain from trade if relative price differs from opportunity cost. If relative price differs from opportunity cost. If relative price differs from opportunity cost. So if relative price is different than the opportunity cost, then country stands to gain from that trade. Clear? So if that will be asked gain from trade to elaborate, then you can explain that. Now the basic Ricardian model was in fact a 2 by 2 by 1 model. So we were explaining trade between two countries producing two products by using only one factor of production, labor. But when we take only two products, then opportunity cost of cheese can be explained in terms of wine. Opportunity cost of wine can be explained in terms of cheese. So if you have opportunity cost advantage in cheese, then foreign country will have opportunity cost advantage in wine, because actually ALC by ALW, you are comparing this number with ALC star by ALW star. So if you take the inverse, it will calculate opportunity cost of the other good. So if you take inverse, then equality will be different. So in a two product model, it is easier to explain trade, that in which product you will have comparative advantage, in which product you don't have comparative advantage. But if I say that it is 2 by n by 1 model, which means trade between home and foreign country producing n number of product by using only one factor of production labor. But if there is n number of product, say cheese, wine, apple, banana and so on, so the moment you take more than two product, then opportunity cost of cheese can be explained in terms of all other product that you have to sacrifice. So that makes things complicated, because opportunity cost of cheese is not only in terms of wine, and opportunity cost of wine is not only in terms of cheese. So if there are, let us say, 10 different product, then we have to determine out of those 10 product, in how many product home country has cost advantage and in how many product foreign country will have cost advantage. So that will be a topic of comparative advantage with many goods, मतलब concept को आप apply करेंगे आप. So in that chapter it is basic, but the Ricardian model is originally based upon this 2 by 2 by 1 model, but now we are applying that concept. So when you apply, you can generalize it for n number of product as well. So in this next class will be starting with this n number of product, and then certain misconceptions related to the international trade, and then we will be moving to the second chapter or next chapter, that will be HO model. So international trade in fact consists of, okay, just to take this overview. We started in this class with international economics. This overall will be taking obviously around 15 or 20 classes in totality. In the first part we will be focusing on this international trade theories, old and new theories, and then balance of payment and foreign exchange market. And we started with this old theory concept, and old theory includes a Ricardian model, then HO model, after that will be a specific factor model, and then standard trade model. So right now in this class we are here Ricardian model, and some part of that Ricardian model is still left. That means a comparative advantage with many goods and misconception. And then it will be HO model, but HO model has a greater weightage, that means uske sub parts और भी ज़्यादा है. And then specific and then standard rate model. So we'll be continuing with this. Clear? So you have all this topic wise question. In this class we can say we have answered one question partly, that from 2019, that what are the features based upon which new theories are built, but so far we have not done completely new theories. So one question partly you can answer, this question you can answer completely, gravity model of trade, and the one numerical part of 2015 35. Okay, so this will be continuing with this international part.